Yo, welcome to another episode of the BJJ GOONS podcast. I'm your host, Tim, the Mushmaster Spriggs, and with me, as always, every week is...
Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Nico Ball, no new Nico.
So, guys, this is going to be the last episode of 2020, and what a insane, bonkers year this has been. In a lot of ways, for me, this has been a very sad year. It's been kind of disappointing, but in other ways, there's been a lot of growth. What do you think, Nico? Like, how do you feel? How do
Man,
you...
you said bonkers, which I don't know why, but that word just reminds me of like old school Animaniacs, just a particular cartoon. I don't know if you know what it is, like Saturday morning
Bonkers, man.
cartoons. Yeah, just like off the wall. That's a good way to describe this year because it has been. I normally describe it as a shit show, but like we work with kids sometimes, so bonkers is a good way to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
It's been crazy. It's definitely been a successful year though, which is a weird thing to say. Like I've had a lot of business breakthroughs, a lot of growth, but I'm supposed to be in Brazil literally as we speak. So that kind of sucks, It's had its ups and downs.
This year has thrown a lot of curveballs, and it's been topsy-turvy to say the least. You were saying that you should have been in Brazil by now. There was a time over the course of the last couple of years when I went fully independent as a grappler, where I was in a different continent every single week. There was times when I went from Brazil to America to Korea, just all over the place. And
Exactly.
and what's interesting is this time last year, I was in Korea. And in March, we were getting ready for pans. Like, I think all of us were getting ready, all of us were training, we were peaking for pans. And then we go from, oh, there's this new cold moving around, make sure you wear a mask on the plane, to there's no pans, to we're in the house. And as I'm reflecting, I think about everything. It kind of threw me for a curveball for 3 months. I was shook. You lose your livelihood in a lot of ways because before this whole shutdown, before 2020, the majority of what I was doing was traveling and teaching and competing. But, as far as the show's concerned, I think a great thing happened is that since we're locked down, we had to really go on our Rolodex. So we had to use the people that were close to us to try to grow things, like build things. Like, I think it's wonderful how the minorities, and more specifically the Black people in the jiu-jitsu community, became closer with all the turmoil that was going on out there. I think it was great that me and Nico connected and we're able to, in my opinion, I think this podcast has grown leaps and bounds, and it wouldn't have been able to happen if it weren't for COVID shutting shit down and making us really have to take the time to
Mm-hmm.
grow other aspects of the business.
Yeah, I gotta say you've had this podcast for a really long time, and third co-host now, but I think like one thing, like you've always had great content. I think one thing that we're doing now that's awesome is like consistent content, like so much content. Like I've seen you sit and like build your virtual training, your mind maps, like, and really just kind of develop on like a professional level. Like we do content together, but like you kind of handle like more of the administrative aspect of like BJJ GOONS podcast, and like I've definitely seen it grow in like getting sponsors and just partnerships and working with more people. So it's definitely cool to see like how you've evolved on that business side. And me, like I've never had like a partner before. I work for Today Kids Project, and I work with a lot of people. Clearly I work with Today, but like on a different level. A different hierarchy, and I do like favela jiu-jitsu, and I kind of am developing a partner there in Sao Paulo, but it's like someone I don't even know. But like me and Tim and us working together how we do here, I've never really worked as much with anybody really, which is dope.
Yeah, I think we got a lot of goals accomplished despite all the BS. And Lord willing, I think 2021 is going to be even bigger because I think the world's going to start opening up again. I'm very hopeful of that. I'm going to put that positive energy out there. And I have some New Year's resolutions, not only for the podcast, but for myself as an athlete, as a coach. What do you have any New Year's resolutions? Do you even do New Year's resolutions, Nico? Like what's your
Um,
thing?
I definitely kind of do New Year's resolutions. Like I'm Buddhist, so and I practice like Nichiren Buddhism, so like an avid Buddhist. So and the three pillars of Buddhism are faith, practice, and study, and like showing actual proof. So that requires us to actually have goals and like accomplish them and be able to be like, boom, Buddhism works. So I always have resolutions. They're not always like contingent on New Year's.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
I
That's
do have but I did make them for the show. Of course, I do have some for the show.
okay. So let's say them. Do you want me to go first? Or do you
I
want to
don't
go first?
I don't know. You want to flip a coin? I made you go first last time. Who do you want to go first? You choose.
You know what? I'll go first.
All
I'll
right.
go first. So let's start with the podcast. I think that a big thing that I want to do with the podcast is I will, of course, want to get to our 100th episode on time. And I want like a big sponsor. Like I want like a huge corporate sponsor, something that's a game changer because I don't really
Cheers.
watch a lot of other jiu-jitsu podcasts. However, I will say that I haven't heard of any that had a sponsor that isn't just for jiu-jitsu or jiu-jitsu related. Something bigger than the jiu-jitsu niche. That's like a big goal of mine. I think we're on our path.
Yeah, we stepped out with Perry Athletics, which was a really dope sponsorship or for a couple of episodes. They do a lot of like high-end clothing in New York, like really in the style, really kind of upper class like jujitsu. So I liked working with them.
Yes. As far as like promotion goes, like social media, I think we need to be able to get a lot more social media followers. I think once we get our minds together and like put out more clips, it's going to be a lot easier. But like, I think that we need to just. My goal is to get our content out to way more people. It's kind of weird with social media, just from what I've experienced lately with this whole Dylan Dennis call out that we can go over later. Like the social media world is like a whole nother science. It's not even like an art form. It's not like a game. It's a freaking science. But to grow the podcast and be like the undisputed number one, I think as far as content, what we talk about, the guests that we bring on, the stories that are told, we're unmatched. But as far as reach, I think that this year, 2021, my resolution is to have the biggest reach. Uh, Competitively as an athlete, I want to have more big matches. So far, I have a match with Cyborg next year in a few weeks, which is going to be
You said
fantastic.
next year. Oh my God, it is
Yeah,
next
it
year.
is next year, right?
Oh my God.
Yes.
And
So
Cyborg. Like,
Cyborg.
yo. So you gonna ask like Muhammad for like some like little sneak tips? Like who like you gonna try to make Muhammad choose sides? Like
I hit up Muhammad. I'm waiting for his response. I know he's a very busy man. He's doing a great job promoting his instructionals. His goal is to be a millionaire this year. So I believe that he can. I think Muhammad's a great instructor. And side note, as far as Muhammad teaching, I don't think he gets enough credit for bringing it back to Brazil. Like he's catering to the Brazilian market. But I remember, I think the year he won Worlds right after, it had been 2018 because we watched the World Cup final that afternoon. But he had a seminar and he taught in English and he did a phenomenal job. He showed the techniques that he used and he's bilingual, which we're going to get over later as far as this whole American Jiu-Jitsu stuff is concerned. Like this guy is doing a great job. So he's a very busy man. So yeah, I'm gonna pick his brain with all the tips and everything. I think with as a competitor, I want to have big matches. I want to have a lot of matches in jiu-jitsu, but a big milestone that I want to have is that I want to have an MMA fight and win by KO.
against We all know who against. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. We're gonna go to that. But those are my New Year's resolutions. I love your idea. You're a practicing Buddhist, like you said. Like you're always about works. Like you always want to show improvement. I feel that same way. But yeah, I totally agree. Like we're just gonna keep on pushing. So Nico, what are your resolutions? I'm not gonna say New Year's resolutions because you're always on your grind.
Okay, yeah, all right. So one of them, first of all, I guess, what's gonna be my first if I want to prioritize them? Going to Angola. I guess I'm going to Angola. And definitely Portugal again. My goal is to meet, I guess, this person on this t-shirt that I really need to take off of my wall and actually wear this t-shirt. But it's like a rapper, an Angolan rapper that lives in Portugal. And we go there every year for Europeans. So I'm a big fan of his and the work that he does in the community with his music, speaking on like human rights, civil rights, and then they're basically just kind of like the Wu-Tang Clan of Angola. Like, so clearly I like the Wu-Tang Clan. So my goal is to meet him this year. I'm definitely gonna make that happen. So what is it, January? The problem is that like I always go to Portugal in January, so that puts me in like next year. There's going to be no Europeans this year, so I'll have to have like some other reason to go to Portugal, probably on a layover to Angola. When I go to Angola, I'm gonna be training at GFTM Angola and having it up there. So that's my goal. You'll probably end up coming with me. You should go do a seminar, super fights down there. It'll be dope. We've talked about that before. So that's definitely my number one, Angola, meeting Prodigio. Second, that would be third. I think is like that I want to buy property. And I want to buy property in Brazil. And I want to do this for jiu-jitsu reasons. And that's all I'll say on that little hustle that I have.
Ooh. A long-term goal of mine. Like I love property. I'm from Maryland, and my family is from Maryland. And there's this part of Maryland that my family's from. I'm not going to say which particular part because I don't want to give it away. But there's a part of Maryland that I want to buy land, a huge tract of land with, and I have it all planned out. I think that's really important. And I think it's awesome that you're going to buy land. Like they always say, buy up land because God's not making any more. So that's freaking dope. Nico.
You know, very true. And then like I know we want to talk about like, I guess it doesn't have to do with American Jiu-Jitsu, but every episode seems to like boil down to like Black Lives Matter and like some kind of like civil rights struggle. And as I was like doing a lot of reading and research, like a lot has to do with like land titles and ownership and like what do you actually own, you know? And I'm fitting to own something up in Brazil.
Do the damn thing. I mean, it's better in Brazil than here because it's cold as shit this time of year, and it's dark at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
You telling me I'm supposed
I'm
to
a
be in Brazil
tropical
right
brother.
now, and then from Brazil to Angola. That's what like my goal, like my like ultimate like New Year's resolution. This is like my short term goal is just to avoid winter, to be in the U.S. for 6 months, and then either in Brazil or Angola for winter, just to like eternally chase summer.
Switch hemispheres at the halfway point of the year. That's how you got to do it.
I'm gonna make it happen. That's exactly how I'm going to do it.
Well, Nico, you mentioned Brazil. You mentioned the struggle. I recently watched the American Jiu-Jitsu documentary for Flow Grappling. And yeah, everyone saw the trailer. A lot of people were up in arms. I was pretty upset, to be fair with you. I have a lot of thoughts about this. I guess I'll just get into it.
Speak on it.
The first thing that comes to mind when I saw the trailer, and mind you guys, I've seen the whole documentary. It wasn't a real representation of jiu-jitsu in America. I saw a lot of Daisy Fresh. I saw a lot of Legion, which is Keenan's new school. I saw clips of 10th Planet.
So they showed, I didn't see it. Like, so I'm just going to interrupt. So they showed Keenan's school, but didn't say where Keenan came from?
No.
Okay.
It kind of, as far as the Keenan part, they let him talk a lot. And I think they shouldn't have really marketed it as American Jiu-Jitsu.
That's for sure. Like, that's for sure.
It wasn't
I mean,
American Jiu-Jitsu documentary. I think it was more of just like a short video about basically the whitewashing of the history of jiu-jitsu in this country, if I'm going to be fair. They should have marketed it as an advertisement for Keenan and a couple other guys talking about how they kind of want to erase the Brazilian aspect of jiu-jitsu, in my opinion.
okay, so like who else is in it? So let's try to say a little bit objectives. Like, so you were saying it's a lot of Daisy Fresh, a lot of Legion. For those of us that haven't seen it, like it's a lot of Daisy Fresh, a lot of Legion. Because I assume that
VBS. There was a few clips of me winning the worlds at black belt. I think they kind of put that in there to save their ass because they didn't interview any of the guys from America's jiu-jitsu team. You know what I mean? And a lot of it was just asking the question of should it be called American Jiu-Jitsu? And a couple of the things that bothered me was that they had this whole argument that, oh, Americans are evolving the sport, like Americans do wrestling, right? Like they added wrestling to jiu-jitsu. But if you know your history, Ricardo Arona was doing takedowns in ADCC back in the 90s. Old school jiu-jitsu all the way back to the first worlds and before was a lot of judo and wrestling takedowns. The Gracies did takedowns. Everyone did takedowns back then. So the whole idea that Americans are evolving the sport, like what, I don't think Americans have really evolved the sport that much. I don't think jiu-jitsu has really changed that much. We added leg locks, but if we look at it, leg locks were a part of the canon of judo all the way back in Japan.
I would say that American pedagogical style is very different and very much more formal in Brazil, which would give the image that we are changing it because of the way people teach in a very more intentional way.
Very like
But not saying that that's a
structured.
clear, yeah, like people explain it a little bit better. Like, I know Alliance in Brazil has a manual and they're very specific, but like not everybody in Brazil has like that same level of like technology or access to internet. You know, any other country, like really, like in Africa, it's a problem too. It's like you don't have instructionals like you do in the US. Like you don't have YouTube instructionals because you don't have the internet like you do in the US everywhere. And people don't consider that. Um,
Do you believe it's a cultural thing? Because a lot of like old world cultures are not on this hemisphere have a history of like oral teaching or oral history where they're more speak more and it's not as structured because the American educational system is based like kind of in the church where it's very strict,
yeah.
structured.
You do it. Yeah, I definitely think it's a like a cultural way people learn, a way people explain themselves. Like, but then also when you talk about like that, it's like who is viewing like this documentary, and it's kind of those people that it caters to. You know, the
I
same
get
people
it,
that are in it. Like,
but I don't think it serves all of the jiu-jitsu community
oh,
because a lot
definitely.
of people were pissed.
Oh
I
no,
would
no, no,
agree
no. I
with
don't.
you.
I think it serves very a couple of teams. A team like I don't think I think it was very subjective. Like,
And I think it was pretty, and I think it was, I think they whitewashed it a lot because if we're going to talk about American Jiu-Jitsu, let's just put it out on the table. Why didn't you interview JT? JT Torres is a two-time ADCC world champion. He's one of the best ever. If we're going to, and a lot, and I'm going to make this comparison, I think it's a lot of it, it's an American thing for them to try to take away from other cultures. I think it's a very American thing to do. And I think it's specifically to jiu-jitsu in America because I look at judo. I've never heard of a judoka shit on Japan. If we're gonna look, American judokas, Russian, Mongolian, when they do the techniques, they give they pay homage to Japan. You gotta call them techniques their Japanese name.
mhm.
I've never heard a judoka say this is American judo. They'll say like I'm an American judoka, but they're never gonna say it's American judo. I think they should have interviewed more people. I think that if we're going to talk about American Jiu-Jitsu, going to market it, you need to interview all of the American Jiu-Jitsu. And we got to talk about the history. You got to talk about the Garth Taylors. You got to talk about the Mark Kerrs that were originally like ADCC medalists or champions. And if we're going to talk about American Jiu-Jitsu, we need to ask the best Americans ever or the best American team. I just think it bothers me that you're going to talk to the Pedigo, Daisy Fresh, whatever, pedagogy fighting systems guy who has one black belt and not talk to Master Lloyd, not talk to Master Donnie, not talk to Julius Park, not talk to all the other American jiu-jitsu pioneers. I mean, you could talk to like Bill Cooper. I mean, Bill Cooper is a pioneer. He took second at Worlds.
Companies like Budo videos and like the people that played a big part in the development of like
Scotty OTM, all those people. And I think it's a greater problem with jiu-jitsu and that it's not very inclusive. And it's showing and it's very bothersome. And if we want to make jiu-jitsu great in this country, if we want to build it, we got to spread it out and we got to be real about the pioneers and we got to be real about it. And there's no such thing as American jiu-jitsu. There's no such thing. There's just Americans that do jiu-jitsu because we train with Brazilians. They come here, right? I got the feeling from the documentary that they kind of looked at them as just because they don't speak English clearly or just because they're not from here or just because they don't look a certain way, that they're not intelligent. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, if we're going to be honest, if we want to bring that back, the father of modern jiu-jitsu is Ted Day. All the innovations are still in Brazil. And if we're going to talk about American innovation, you had Keenan on there. What has Keenan innovated? Keenan isn't even the best guy to come from Team Lloyd Irvin. Keenan's innovations came from the kids class on Team Lloyd Irvin. If we want to talk about innovation, I mean, interview Master Donnie.
Yeah, the fact that they're bringing up so many kids, because a lot of these teams, they'll come and they'll go. Like Legion, like focuses on competitors, and one thing TLI does, and it has always done, is really focus on the next generation of competitors, which is always interesting, but not something you'll ever hear about.
and I think that it's sad because the documentary had so much potential. It was a 30-minute documentary, and it was basically just, let's just whitewash jiu-jitsu. Let's just ignore all the contributions. Let's not even celebrate Americans doing jiu-jitsu. Let's just be like, fuck Brazil. Fuck everybody that paved the way. We're America right now. America, fuck yeah. We do jiu-jitsu now. We're the best. When in all actuality, if we look at statistics, America hasn't done enough to even take the mantle. If anything, we could just call it jiu-jitsu, but the jiu-jitsu we do that was taken from Japan and brought to Brazil and was developed and brought to America is Brazilian. It is Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Maybe down the road, we'll just call it jiu-jitsu, but you got to pay homage, man. You got to know your history, because I'm afraid that in 10, 15 years, people are not even going to give a shit about Ted Day. In 10 to 15 years, no one's going to give a shit about the guys that paved the way. They're just going to be like, oh, well, it all started with DDS, Keenan, and Daisy Fresh guys. Like, and then because they made the documentary, that's the record. And then it's going to take people like you that know your history. It's going to take people like me that have these platforms to really tell the truth. But
I think like one thing that's really important to understand is, and I was commenting on this because I found out about the documentary by a post that a local African-American black belt posted, and he was kind of really indignant, and then I reposted it, and that repost got around all the way around to Portugal. About
worldwide.
That definitely got picked up. But You know, so there was a little debate on that, a conversation about how they had just left out all of like any prominent African American that had ever accomplished anything in the sport, any of the first African American black belt, first world champions, I mean, in gi and no gi. They left all of that out. I also, you know, my comment to that was like, I work with Flow Grappling, and Flow Grappling are, you know, the senior editor is one of my mentors, and he has taught me like almost everything I know about journalism, you know, definitely like my foundation for video editing. And, you know, I speak with him all the time and about my ideas and everything I'm doing with Favela Jiu-Jitsu. And one thing that I know about them is that like they're a slave to the numbers, and a lot of what they do is bias, you know, but a lot of what they do is them reading the shit and I don't want to say you guys because I don't think it's our followers. I don't think it's the people that are listening. They're catering to what is getting clicked on. Like I've had a column for Flow Grappling and I got dropped because I didn't get enough clicks. Like Favela Jiu-Jitsu was on Flow Grappling, and we are now our own page because people are more interested in competitors, and that's their mission. Like every company has a mission. Flow Grappling's mission is adult competitors, and like they're a private company and they have every right to focus on adult competitors, not masters, not Todd Margolis. Like, have they given me Todd Margolis's film for Favela Jiu-Jitsu for free? Yes, but they won't post it. Like, and like you got to understand what a business is and what they do. So you got to understand, like, when they're producing things like American Jiu-Jitsu, it's because there's a lot of racist American Jiu-Jitsu people that are asking for that content. So that's a problem we need to address as well, on top of the journalistic like things, because like I said, they're my mentors, so I sought out other help in or you know, opinions in the journalistic community. And off the trailer, they like professional opinions that I got back were like just major journalistic and sports journalism no-nos. Like no company is going to produce a trailer like that with no people of color in it, no women or no people of color. It's just like, you just don't do it. It's on the checklist of quick, don't fuck this up. And they did, you know? And just like proposing objective questions that people can answer in the documentary, as opposed to, you know, finding teams to support a narrative, which is something that a lot of people are complaining that happened. So I think it's just really important to remember that like we have the power. It's important to not give focus or on things like this, and also to really try to help support independent content producers and really just support the content that you do want to see, curate your community.
Yeah, curate your community, curate your feed. That says be another resolution, that we tell more stories. And as far as the women go, if we're being honest, women in America have paved the way a lot for jiu-jitsu just as much as the men. I mean, we talking about Tammy Musumeci. We're gonna go you know,
I was
Gazzy
trying to get her on the
Pearlman.
podcast, Tammy and Mikey.
We'll get it done. We'll for sure get it done. But
Ooh.
I mean, I think we're doing our part. We're trying our best. You know, we don't have the funding as much as Flow, I would think, but we're trying our best. But I mean, that's like the last big thing from 2020 as far as content is concerned. Like, let's reflect a little bit on this year in jiu-jitsu, or the lack thereof. Wasn't as much jiu-jitsu. What did you think about jiu-jitsu in 2020? Like, what are some of your takeaways from just the competition aspect, the cultural aspect? Like, our jiu-jitsu community, I didn't know it was so big, but I didn't know like it'd be such a shit show. So what are some of your reflections from this year?
Damn, that's a hard one. I overlooked this in the outline. Like, if we want to just take it on like a real quick off top personal level, like,
Yeah, it's an all top personal level on jiu-jitsu. Like all
I
the, not just
didn't
the
I
adult
didn't get my
competitors.
damn purple belt this year. I spent a whole nother year as a blue belt and didn't get a chance to be a blue belt world fucking champion. So I messed that up too. Like I've been like, because I ain't going. Like I could have gone. I ain't going down there with that COVID. I didn't go to Europeans, and Flow Grappling offered to pay me extra, but I was like, let me be a responsible teacher in DC, and I stayed. I highly regret that. Yeah, and then it's just like, Jujitsu has really kind of sucked. Like, nothing to look forward to. Not like I realized, like, I think it was like last October, I wasn't like I was in a different city every weekend. So this year, jujitsu, it's just it. If you think of it just in jujitsu terms, for my personal life, it's devastating. Like, thank God I had business. I think one of my New Year's resolutions should also be to get back in shape, because although I have been training jujitsu consistently, like I've been so focused on business, like I've kind of just been kind of going through the motions. I haven't been enjoying it a lot, like, and I really just need to like really focus on like health and fitness, and like, yeah, I am also a professional athlete and not just an executive director and a business owner. So those are my reflections on this year in jiu-jitsu. It's kind of sucked.
I love the personal insights into your journey and your career. It made me really change what I was going to say. From a personal standpoint and professional standpoint, it has been an interim year, like we said last week. This has been like one of the longest droughts, if not the longest droughts, of me not training jujitsu. I've been training periodically here and there, and I haven't lost anything. And I think that might be a testament to just how ingrained in my mind it can be. And although I miss it, I kind of don't miss it. Do you understand what I'm saying? I miss the routine, but I learned that I don't need it like I need it. I'm not addicted. I'm not going through withdrawals. And whenever I do get back on the mats, all the other noise and all the bullshit around it, like, I got to beat this guy, or I got this coming up, or I need to do this, I need to learn that so that I can win, or else I'm not going to, the pressure's gone. And I think for me, all the outside noise and all the bullshit is gone. And when I do train now, it's more of, let me just do my thing. Let me not just worry about what a potential competitor is going to do. Let me just do jujitsu and do my jujitsu with the time I have. It's been very good for me to just make the most of the time I have on the mat and do it and have fun. Missing competitions is huge. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I've been doing this since I was 16 years old.
Dang. Yep.
I've been doing this since 2006, man. And, I had to double down on the things that I wasn't good at, or learn new things, or use that energy that I had into making myself a better person in other aspects in my life, which is good. But I'm fighting Cyborg next, so I kind of thrust myself back in the mix. And it helped me discover the lack of jiu-jitsu, or transitioning my jiu-jitsu into something else that I could potentially do. It helped me find a love for training MMA, or
Wait,
wanting to do MMA.
wait. I'm sorry. I got confused because we were talking before. Did you just drop the Cyborg fight announcement just like that, or did we speak about this on the podcast already?
I thought we spoke about it before.
I don't know
Did
because
I?
I don't remember because we were talking about it when we started recording, y'all.
Oh,
I don't
so
think we did. We went through
speaking of,
reflections.
we
Cyborg is
definitely
after that.
did. We
Yo, you
did.
went from the reflections on last year to boom.
Okay, so speaking of jiu-jitsu, 2020, I missed it a lot, but I was able to, when I do train, or when I was training here and there, I was able to cut out all the bullshit and just do my thing. And I discovered what I'm great at. And like when I was training Master Lloyd's Garage, one day I just asked him straight, I was like, what am I missing? Because when I was training and before the shutdown, I was super concerned about what I was missing, instead of thinking about what I already have in the sport, what I already have in the technique, what I already know. And then when I sit back and take notes, or when I'm helping to coach people, and when I'm reflecting on different things in the art, I'm like, oh shit, I know a lot. And then one day Master Lo was like, Shorty, you're not missing nothing. You've been doing this forever. You know how to play guard, you know how leg locks, takedowns, you know how to pass guard. And then I was like, shit, you're right. This whole time I was worried about what I didn't have or what I didn't know or what I was missing. But then when it's gone and you're sitting home thinking about it, and then every once in a while when you're able to train, you go back out there, it's like, oh shit, it's within me this whole time. Like, I got this. Like, this is me. And now, as far as the Cyborg match, that was kind of last minute. I'm fighting Cyborg on January 22nd for Fight to Win. It's for the vacant, I mean, I guess it's the super ultra heavyweight title because he's like 240, 250 pounds right
Yo,
now.
while you're down there, I want Steph and Missy on the podcast, man. Holla at them, but separately because they would be two great,
two crazy ass episodes. We gotta have them on.
Yeah. Although I'm trying to go down there with you. Wait, when is the date? Drop that date again for the fourth time for me. I know.
January 22nd.
January 22nd.
On Flow Grappling. Make sure you don't bootleg it because I'm trying to get big ratings because, you know, I'm like number 2 on Flow Grappling after calling out Dylan Dennis's podcast.
Oh shit! Like I want to go with you, but I definitely don't want to buy a ticket. Like I'll make like 4 social media posts for you though.
Hey, do your thing.
Like, shit. If I gotta buy a plane ticket, I don't want to be on.
But yeah, I think as far as 2020, I learned that I wasn't missing anything. It wasn't that I wasn't great. It wasn't that I was just overthinking it. And then when you have to when you lose it, or when you're away and you step away from it and you take that time off, and then when you come back, everything gets more simpler. All the noise, all the bullshit in your mind, it's clear, and then it's back to square one. It's like a refresher, and I feel great now. And I feel great. And I took the match. It was kind of short notice because, I mean, I just got the call like this week. Like, you want to fight him in 3 weeks? I'm like, okay, I'll take the match. Y'all paying? Like, you know me, I'm all about the bag. And I always want to have a match with Cyborg. It's different here. Like, I don't have, like, I look at other places and like Cyborg's gym, for instance, like down south, they're open. So like they got the whole crew there and everything set up. Here it's a little different, but I've still been training. I've just keeping the blade sharp, and I'm just excited. I'm going to put on a show for everyone. And I really appreciate now my position in the game. I'm an established black belt. I've done a lot in the sport. I still have so much to give. But I think jiu-jitsu has been kind of on a down slope this last year. As far as like other things in jiu-jitsu, the community, it's kind of split. Like, we're starting to see like a lot of bullshit outside of the sport, a lot of antics, a lot of racist rhetoric, a lot of hurtful things being said. But at the same time, a lot of people, like-minded people, like that come onto this show that are trying to do their art for good, they're involved too. And I think it's a great opportunity to just put on a show for the sport of jiu-jitsu and do the best that we can. And that's what I'm going to do from here on out. You know,
so if you're fighting Cyborg now, then like I seen you on social media. I thought this was like some world star hip hop bullshit, Tim. Let me get some of that $250K that you're putting up for Dennis to fly down to the Cyborg fight. Like, what's up with that? Like, because like if you got 250, you got 250K, and I love it. I love it that I'm getting text messages from friends in DC, like because you popped up on DMV Hood News, and they're like, they're like, because they've seen me producing your shirts, like they've seen me making your shirts, and they're like, yo, what is he doing? Like, and I was like, it's jujitsu, and they're like, how is that jujitsu? That looks violent. And then I think they also heard some of the like comments, whatever. And I just get a message, and I was like, is this your boy? And like, that's how I found out. I didn't see that picture before. And I was so proud of him. I was like, that is my boy. And I was like, wait, how much money he got there posting there? I was like, what?
I'll see what I can do, Nico. I'm gonna talk to my accountant.
No, but what's up with that? What's up with Dylan though? Like, you took this fight with Cyborg, like he still got you blocked?
Well, he hasn't blocked me. He unblocked me. And like the whole world knows that I've been calling him out. Like I've been saying that he says that he wants to call himself the best grappler in MMA. I'm in MMA now. I'm making the transition. I want the smoke. Let's prove it. I'm trying to kill this era of clout in jiu-jitsu. I'm trying to kill off this whole era of fucking antics, Nico. I'm sick and tired of it. I don't like how guys just cling on to more famous people or just say a bunch of inflammatory shit and don't back it up. I think he's a piss poor representative of the sport because when people talk about jiu-jitsu, like the common person, like he is Conor McGregor's grappling coach. I think he's done a shit job because if you saw the Khabib fight and how Conor grapples, like he does not do a good job on the ground. But I digress. I'm sick of it. He hasn't earned his spot as a grappler. If you look at his record, it's piss poor. He hasn't done shit in grappling. He's barely done shit in MMA. And it's a slap in the face to guys that earn their spot in both sports.
I mean, I think what I have been told by people is that the Death Squad and some people like that, they excel at a particular niche in what they do in the sport, whether it be a rule set like no time limit submission. And they're good at that. And it may be true. They will never be world champions in a gi, but they're feeding their families on jiu-jitsu.
I mean, yeah, that's cool. I mean, that's nice and all, but
that came from our team. That came from our team too. And then I was just like, that was not what I expected. I expected a little bit more hate. And that made me think about it. But like, then they're like, yeah, like, they're like, you can't go on them really. Like,
like, I think you can go on them. I disagree.
From a journalistic perspective, we were talking about journalism, which is a little bit different. You got to have that.
Oh,
yeah, we were talking about journalism, but it was just interesting to hear that perspective. You were like, they excel in their niche. Like, yeah, like what you say is true. He hasn't accomplished a lot, and like he does not have the merits that a lot of grapplers does, but he excels at what he does. Like, and it's interesting. Like, how do you judge that? How do you like? You can't be pound for pound in a niche, though, really, can you? But again, when you're talking about you feeding your family, like, but then
I look at it like this.
Again, it's like
I look at it like this, though, Nico. Like, if the difference is this is martial arts.
I'm gonna need you to fuck him up. Like, I'm gonna need you to knock him out.
The difference is, like, I hear that. I hear that in a lot of different aspects in life. But if we're talking this fight shit or this martial arts shit, it's different. I'm gonna call you out. That's like in rap music if you got like a Freddie Gibbs and you comparing him to a fucking Tekashi 6ix9ine, we're gonna have a fucking problem, Nico. We're gonna have a fucking problem. I had to call his bluff. I'm calling his bluff. This guy talks about money. He wants to be a baller. I put up $250,000. The ball's in his court. So far, he's ducking the smoke. And you know me, I pride myself as a martial artist. I pride myself as a grappler. You know me, I don't duck the smoke anytime, any place, any rule set, anybody. I don't give a damn. I'm where the smoke is. I called him out for the smoke. He hasn't answered. I don't feel like waiting. I'm going to go fight one of the greatest guys in grappling of all time, entertain the fans. When I'm done with that, I'm going to keep on going. I'm going to still go at Dylan until he decides to fight me. And the longer he waits, the worse the beating he's going to take. So that's my take on it, Nico. I mean, if you guys can go on Flow Grappling, watch the interview where I call him a bitch and everything else. Shout out to the Mike and Mikey show too.
That was dope. I like that.
Yeah, so that's basically it for me. I mean, I think 2021 is going to be a phenomenal year. I'm putting that energy out there.
Yeah. Catch me in Luanda, y'all. I'll be in Angola. I will be in Africa. If you're interested in doing seminars, your black belt's interested in doing seminars, hit me up. Hook you up with the teams down there. It's really warm.
We got to do some kind of like spiritual purge of 2020, or it's just like we just X that out of our memory. I don't know what we got to do, but we need to celebrate when 2021 happens. Socially distance, of course. Hopefully we don't die from the vaccine if we all decide to get it. But guys, I just want to say, in all serious note, thank you to everyone that's been listening to this show. Like, we couldn't have done it without you guys. Hopefully, with all the bullshit that's gone on this year, that BJJ Goons, me and Nico, all our guests, made you feel happy, made you feel like life was okay for the hour or so every week that we put on this podcast, that we brighten your day somehow, and we couldn't have done it without you. The sponsors wouldn't be hitting us up like they do without you guys. And from the bottom of my heart, shout out to you guys. We love the Goons. You know, it's all about the Goons, baby. Thanks, guys. Nico?
All right. Yeah, I just want to say shout out to everybody that has been showing me love, that has been listening to the podcast. New thing for me this year. It's definitely been fun. Shout out to everybody that has been helping me with all of my business endeavors, supporting and following me. I'm definitely excited for 2021 and some new business moves and really working in this industry full time.
Well, this has been the BJJ Goons podcast, guys. You can catch me at Tim Spriggs BJJ on Instagram or Facebook, or you can go to timspriggsbjj.com. I do not have an OnlyFans yet, but when I do, I will definitely tell you guys. Maybe that should be my New Year's resolution, Nico. Get an OnlyFans and get that popping.
Oh, man.
Nico, where can they find you? Where can everybody find you?
Make sure to follow me on Instagram at #Nico_ and all of that. Or you can just look for me at Nico Ball. If you don't know how to spell ball, then we need to work on that.
Yeah. Guys, thanks again for all the love and support for 2020. Next week, we're starting 2021 off with a bang. Bigger, better, onward and upward. Excelsior.
Dang.
This has been the BJJ Goons podcast. Peace.
Us.